Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the skid plate race that Tommy won't be in.
No, I was not in it. Jeffrey, it was a skid plate race. All I did is hear about it.
We're famous.
We're very famous. Peter's going to take a photo of us. He's a program guy out here. He creates all the programs along with Jason Galvin, a friend of ours.
Right.
Now, Jeffrey, the skid plate race. I was actually in the back finishing up just a few things for the upcoming Demolition Derby and looking for a trailer for my trailer race car. So you went off and played skid plate racer.
Yeah, now, real quick, I do want to talk a little bit about this. Tommy, you had a lot that needed to get done to your car the time we arrived at the track. And you didn't even have a bumper up to the point of autograph session that night. We got everything ready for your trailer car. We got it going. You had to find a trailer, like you said. I pulled on out for the skid plate race. Again, in a car that's never been run before, a brand new Honda. So I was like, here we go. This thing, folks, was so fresh that it had a license plate. I could have driven it on the street, headlights and taillights and all.
It had registration and all that. That's what's so fun about that. In fact, the funny story, the backstory before we get to the story, the skid plate race, is the tow truck or the tow provider owner, our sponsor, Howard, drove the car to the gas station knowing that his employee was filling up the tow truck and said, put this car in the flatbed and get it out to Urbandale. He drove it to the tow truck. How often do you hear that? Usually a tow truck is what picks you off the street.
That's right. So, very funny start to the skid plate race. Now, I'm going into this. I've obviously seen there's a lot of cars that didn't make it out of the Enduro. A lot of damage that happened in that. So I'm like, all right, I want to keep this car clean as usual, you know, just try not to spin it out, see what this thing does. But of course, in the back of my mind, I know what happened to your car in the Enduro.
Yeah, and you kind of had to play it easy, but also have fun out there.
Yeah.
So we obviously never checked fluids or nothing. No. The most you've driven this car, from what I can remember, was to staging.
Yes, that was it. And I think it's time to go skid plate racing.
Oh boy.
Night of Destruction, round number 1, 2014, skid plate race time. The skid plate race is done. How was it for you?
Oh, it was beautiful. I think I saw you pull off and then pull back in.
Well, that's sometimes a beautiful thing.
That is. Usually we don't do that.
No, not usually. But I will say, Tommy, that car that I took out there was one of the best skid plate cars I've ever driven.
Really?
Absolutely. I was able to drive that thing from the back of the pack all the way up to the 7th position.
Wow.
You see throughout the race that I actually had to catch up to a pack of cars to get around them. So I was absolutely thrilled. I think I spun out once across the line, and overall, very clean day, clean night for that car. No scratches, not even a dent.
Because you could put it away knowing that we can really focus on it before the next night of destruction. Right. It drove off, you parked it, and I'm glad to hear it because I can't wait to see your onboard footage that we just saw then.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the race at all, so folks, I'll be watching it much like you. I bet you were working it, but not as hard as you usually would.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, I started it off nice and easy because you want to get in the handle of the car. You don't want to push it and then end up in the wall. And I kept pushing it more and more. And you can tell because eventually I start ending up way on the half mile during this race. And I'm like, okay, this thing will go. Had a couple close calls out there, a couple spins in front of me that made me stop. But overall, a very clean skid plate race, especially compared to the Enduro.
Very true.
So it was a good night, a good setup. But as I'm driving on the track, I'm pulling over. I look to my left down the back straightaway. I see you guys already ready to go for the Demolition Derby. I'm like, great.
Well, I was watching. I guess I lied. The amount of laps that I watched was probably your last 4 consecutive laps because we were staged up on the back straightaway. You're on track. The Derby's up next, and we're all in there watching you race.
I know. Of course, after the race, I look over and I even kind of made eye contact with you, and I was like, oh shit, I need to get back there. So I pulled it off. Great skid plate race, a clean skid plate race, a calm one for a skid plate race on Night of Destruction.
Very true.
But that's because we're saving the action for the next 2 events. Demolition Derby coming up next.